Listen. I have been working at the Galactic Security Bureau for 73 cycles now, and I thought I had seen everything. Literally everything. 3 armed rebellions, 2-dimensional rifts, and one very unfortunate incident involving a sentient gas cloud and the cafeteria ventilation system. But nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, prepared me for the day they assigned Vera Holt to Nightmare Division. My name is Krixor, by the way. I am a Velcrin, which means I have 6 eyes, 4 arms, and exactly 0 patience for bureaucratic nonsense, which is ironic, considering my entire job revolves around bureaucratic nonsense. I run the personnel department at Station 17, the galactic outpost responsible for handling dimensional threats, nightmare entities, and things that make rational beings question their sanity. The Nightmare Division handles the worst of the worst, the creatures that slip through cracks in reality, the monsters that feed on fear itself, the abominations that our scientists cannot classify because looking at them too long causes spontaneous brain hemorrhaging. We only assign our most experienced, most psychologically stable, most heavily augmented operatives to that division. And then there was Vera. The file landed on my desk with a wet slap. Yes, wet. Because Torvak from Requisitions had been drinking his protein slurry again and had no concept of personal boundaries. I wiped the purple goo off the folder and opened it, expecting another routine transfer request. Human, the file read. Female. Age 26 standard cycles. Previous assignment. Administrative support. Station 9. I blinked all 6 eyes in rapid succession, which is the Velcrin equivalent of spitting out your coffee. Administrative support. They were transferring someone from administrative support to Nightmare Division. I grabbed my comm unit so fast I nearly pulled it out of the wall. Torvak, get in here right now. Torvak oozed through my doorway approximately 30 seconds later. He is a Blahnik, which means he is essentially a sentient pile of semi-solid matter with delusions of competence. You called, Boss? This transfer request, I said, waving the folder at him with 2 of my hands while the other 2 frantically typed out an inquiry to Central Command. This is a joke, right? Please tell me this is one of your stupid pranks. No joke, boss. Came straight from the top. Director Vexel himself signed off on it. Vexel. I felt my primary heart skip a beat. The same Vexel who once ordered an entire moon quarantine because someone told a scary story there. The very same. I sat down heavily in my chair, which creaked in protest. Torvak, Nightmare Division has a 92% casualty rate. Their current team lead has been clinically dead 4 times. They lost 6 operatives last month alone, and one of them was a Thracian war veteran with cybernetic enhancements and 300 years of combat experience. I know, boss. And they want to send them a human from administrative support. Apparently so, boss. A human who, according to this file, has no combat training, no psionic abilities, no genetic modifications, and whose previous job responsibilities included filing expense reports and scheduling meetings. Torvak made a gurgling sound that might have been agreement. I pulled up Vera Holt's profile on my holo screen. A small human female stared back at me with dark eyes and an expression that could only be described as profoundly unimpressed. Her hair was pulled back in what humans called a ponytail. She wore the standard gray jumpsuit of administrative personnel. She looked like she weighed maybe 60 kilograms soaking wet. This is insane, I muttered. She is going to die, horribly. Probably within the first hour. Want me to file a protest with Central Command? Torvak asked. I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. Then I thought about the last time I had filed a protest with Central Command and how it had resulted in me being assigned to toilet maintenance duty for a week. No. Just send her to orientation when she arrives. Maybe they will take one look at her and send her back. That was my first mistake. Vera Holt arrived on Station 17 exactly 4 days later, and she looked even less impressive in person than she had in her photo. She stood maybe 165 centimeters tall. No visible weapons, no armor, just that same gray jumpsuit and a small bag slung over one shoulder. I met her in the landing bay because apparently I hate myself. Miss Holt? She turned to look at me, and I got my first good look at those eyes. Human eyes are weird. They only have 2 of them, first of all, which seems like a terrible design flaw. But hers had this quality to them, this flatness that made my scales itch. That is me, she said. Her voice was calm, even, completely unremarkable. You must be Krixor. Personnel management, right? Correct. I gestured with my upper left arm toward the elevator. If you will follow me, I need to process your transfer and get you set up with, well, everything. Quarters, equipment, probably a will. A will, standard procedure for Nightmare Division. I tried to keep my voice professional. The mortality rate is quite high. I gathered that from the file they sent me. She fell into step beside me, her small legs moving quickly to match my longer stride. 92% casualty rate over the last 5 cycles. Impressive. That is not the word I would use. What word would you use? Horrifying. Apocalyptic. Grounds for immediate resignation and therapy. She made a sound that might have been a laugh. I have had worse jobs. I highly doubted that. But I kept my mouth shut. Both of them. The elevator ride to sub-level 47 took approximately 6 minutes. 6 very awkward minutes where this tiny human stood perfectly still, not fidgeting, not making small talk. Just existing in the space with a kind of patient calm that honestly disturbed me more than if she had been panicking. Can I ask you a question? I finally said, because apparently I lack self-preservation instincts too. Sure. Why did you request transfer to Nightmare Division? She looked at me with those flat, dark eyes. I did not request it. You. Wait, what? I did not request transfer. I got an email 2 weeks ago saying I had been reassigned. I showed up to work on Monday and they told me to pack my things. She shrugged. A peculiar human gesture involving the shoulders. Figured there had been some mistake in the system. But the transfer orders were signed by a Director Vexel, so I went with it. I felt all 6 of my eyes widen simultaneously. You are telling me you were involuntarily transferred to the most dangerous division in the entire Galactic Security Bureau, and you just went with it. I mean, I checked my contract. They are allowed to reassign me anywhere within the organization, as long as they give 2 weeks' notice and cover relocation expenses, which they did. So yeah, here I am. The elevator doors opened onto sub-level 47, and I immediately wished they had not. The Nightmare Division occupied the lowest secure levels of the station for a very good reason. The things they dealt with tended to, well, contaminate their surroundings. The walls down here were reinforced steel instead of the standard composite material. The lighting was harsh and bright, designed to eliminate shadows where things might hide, and the smell was indescribable. Vera inhaled deeply through her nose, then wrinkled it slightly. Smells like a mix of ozone, rotting meat, and is that sulfur? You have a good nose. I grew up near a paper mill. This is nothing. We walked down the corridor toward the Nightmare Division's main operations center. I could hear shouting from inside, which was either a very good sign or a very bad sign. With Nightmare Division, it was always hard to tell. I palmed the door control and it slid open with a hiss. The operations center was controlled madness. Hollow screens covered every wall, displaying containment status updates, field mission reports, and live feeds from various dimensional monitoring stations. Approximately 15 beings of various species rushed around, typing frantically, shouting coordinates, and generally acting like the universe was ending. Which, to be fair, it might have been. A Krayl-tech female with brilliant blue scales and cybernetic eyes spotted us first. She was tall, nearly 3 meters, and covered in scars that suggested she had survived things that would have killed most beings. This was Vash, the current team lead and possibly the most dangerous individual I had ever met. Krixor, she said, her voice a low growl that made my lesser hearts flutter nervously. Please tell me you brought me actual reinforcements and not another sacrifice to the void. I brought you what Central Command sent me. I gestured toward Vera. This is Vera Holt. Human. Transferred from administrative support at Station 9. The entire operations center went silent. 15 heads turned to stare at the small human female standing calmly in the doorway. You are joking, Vash said slowly. I wish I was. Vash walked over to Vera, her footsteps heavy enough to make the floor vibrate. She loomed over the human who barely came up to her mid-torso. Do you have any idea what we do here, human? You hunt nightmare entities and dimensional threats, Vera said without hesitation. Things that slip through cracks in reality. Abominations that feed on fear, pain, or both. The stuff that makes scientists question their life choices. And you think you can help us with that? I think Central Command thinks I can help you with that. Personally, I have no idea. I was filing expense reports last week. A laugh barked out from somewhere in the back of the operations center. A Vorkun male with 4 arms and a face full of tentacles shambled forward. I like her. She is honest. Honest does not stop nightmare spawn from eating your face, Kulf, Vash snapped. No, but neither does lying about your qualifications. Kulf extended one hand toward Vera in the human greeting gesture. Kulf effects. Demolitions and heavy weapons. Vera shook his hand without hesitation. Nice to meet you. I know literally nothing about demolitions or heavy weapons. Well, you are going to learn fast or die trying. He gestured around the operations center. That is Mira on communications. She is the one with the tentacles coming out of her head. 6 is our tracker. He is the big one who looks like a rock. Breen is our medic. The small furry one currently having a panic attack in the corner. And you have met Vash, our fearless leader who has died more times than I have had hot meals. 4 times, Vash corrected. I have been clinically dead 4 times. Let us be accurate. My mistake. 4 times. Vera nodded slowly, taking it all in. Okay, so where do I start? Vash stared at her for a long moment. Then she turned to me. Krixor, I am going to kill whoever approved this transfer. Get in line. I have been saying that for days. She does not have any training. She does not have any enhancements. She does not even have any weapons. I know. She is going to die within 24 hours? I know. Then why is she here? I spread all 4 arms in a gesture of helplessness. Because Director Vaxil signed the transfer orders personally, and arguing with Vaxil is a great way to get reassigned to the waste recycling sector of Station 4, which I hear is lovely this time of year if you enjoy the smell of decomposing biomatter. Vash's cybernetic eyes weird as they focused on Vera again. Fine. Fine. She wants to be here. She can be here. That I am not babysitting her. Kulf, she is your problem now. Get her equipped, trained and ready for field duty. Wait, field duty? I said. You cannot be serious. She has no training. Then she better learn fast. Vash turned back to the holoscreens. We have a code red alert in Sector 9. Something big just breached containment at Research Station 33. All available teams deploy in 15 minutes. The operations center exploded back into motion. Beings rushed toward equipment lockers, grabbing weapons and armor. Alarms began blaring. Red lights strobed across the wall. Korth grabbed Vera's shoulder with one of his hands. Come on, tiny human. Time to see if you have what it takes. Wait, I called after them. She just got here. She does not even know how to use a plasma rifle. Great time to learn, Colt shouted back. I watched them disappear into the equipment area, and I knew with absolute certainty that I was about to process my first death notification for Vera Holt. That was my second mistake. 15 minutes later, I stood in the deployment bay watching Nightmare Division prepare for combat. And I had to admit they were impressive. Vash wore powered armor that made her already imposing frame look absolutely massive. Kos had strapped enough explosives to his body to level a small city. 6. The tracker had activated his combat form, expanding into a 3-meter-tall mass of living stone and teeth. And then there was Vera. She wore standard-issue light armor that looked comically oversized on her small frame. Someone had given her a plasma rifle that she held awkwardly, like she was afraid it might bite her. Her helmet sat slightly crooked on her head. She looked ridiculous. All teams, listen up. Vish's voice boomed across the deployment bay. Research Station 33 was experimenting with dimensional anchor technology. Something went wrong. Very wrong. They opened a rift to somewhere we have never seen before. And something came through. Station went dark 6 minutes ago. Our job is simple. Get in. Contain or eliminate the threat. Seal the rift. Get out. Questions? Silence. Good. Let us move. The team loaded into the assault shuttle and I watched Vera climb aboard last, still fumbling with her rifle. The shuttle doors sealed shut with a hydraulic hiss. I turned to my assistant, Torvak, who had oozed up beside me. Start preparing the death notification paperwork. Already done, boss. I am efficient like that. She has been on station for less than an hour. Record time for a Nightmare Division casualty. You should feel proud. I did not feel proud. I felt sick. The shuttle launched from the bay and disappeared into the black void of space, heading toward Research Station 33 and whatever nightmare waited there. I went back to my office, pulled up the casualty reports from Nightmare Division's last mission, and started mentally preparing myself for the worst. The command on my desk chirped exactly 47 minutes later. I nearly jumped out of my skin. Krixor here. This is Vash. Her voice was tight, controlled, but I could hear the strain underneath. We are at Research Station 33. Status? The station is gone. I felt my blood run cold. What do you mean, gone? I mean the entire station has been consumed. There is just a hole in space where it used to be. A rift, approximately 2 kilometers wide, and things are coming through it. What kind of things? The kind that do not belong in our reality. We are engaging now. Sending you live feed. My holo screen flickered to life, showing the external camera feeds from the shuttle. What I saw made every single one of my survival instincts scream at me to run. The rift was a wound in space itself, a tear in reality that pulsed with colors that should not exist. And pouring through it were creatures that my brain refused to properly process. They were too many angles and not enough dimensions. They moved in ways that violated physics. Looking at them made my eyes hurt. Deploying now, Vash said. The camera feed switched to helmet cams. I watched as Nightmare Division dropped from the shuttle directly into hell itself. Plasma fire lit up the void. Explosions blossomed in silence. The creatures screamed with sounds that should not be possible in vacuum. And there, in the middle of it all, was Vera. I watched her drop from the shuttle, her movements clumsy and uncertain. She hit the debris field that used to be Research Station 33 and immediately stumbled, nearly losing her rifle. Halt! On your 6. Colt's voice shouted through the comm. Vera spun around, and one of the creatures was right there. It had too many limbs and too many mouths and eyes that looked directly into your soul and found you wanting. She raised her rifle and fired. Nothing happened. Safety, Holt. The safety. She fumbled with the weapon for 3 agonizing seconds while the creature lunged toward her. Then the rifle fired, cutting through the creature with a stream of superheated plasma. It shrieked and dissolved into nothing. Not bad for your first kill, Cole laughed. Try to remember the safety next time, though. I watched, unable to look away as the battle unfolded. Nightmare Division fought like demons, cutting through creatures that would have sent entire armies running. Vash moved like a force of nature, her powered armor crushing anything that got close. 6 simply ate things, his stone form expanding to swallow creatures whole. Colt's explosives turned reality-bending nightmares into component atoms, and Vera just kept going. She was clumsy. She was slow. She made mistakes that should have gotten her killed a dozen times over. But somehow, impossibly, she survived. Every time a creature lunged at her, she managed to dodge or shoot it, or just be somewhere else. Like she had the universe's dumbest luck. Rift is expanding. Mira's voice crackled through the comm. We need to seal it now or it will consume the entire sector. Working on it, Vash shouted back. Kolth, I need charges on those anchor points. On it? I watched Kolth plant dimensional charges around the rift's perimeter while the rest of the team provided covering fire. Creatures poured through the opening in reality like water from a broken dam. Holt, get to the center point, Vash ordered. We need someone to activate the manual override on the station's dimensional controls. The station is gone, Vera shouted back. The control room might still exist in dimensional flux. Check your scanner. There was a pause. Then I see it. It is, oh no, it is inside the rift. Then get inside the rift and activate it. Are you insane? Frequently. Move! I watched in horror as Vera actually did it. This tiny human female who had been filing expense reports a week ago aimed herself at the reality-bending tear in space and kicked off from a piece of debris flying directly into the rift. Her helmet cam went crazy. Colors that should not exist. Angles that made no sense. I saw glimpses of things that my brain refused to process. Geometries that violated everything we understood about physics. And then the feed stabilized, and Vera was inside what remained of the station's control room. Except it was wrong. Everything was backwards or upside down or inside out. The walls breathed. The floor rippled like water. Gravity existed only as a suggestion. I found the controls, Vera's voice was remarkably steady for someone literally inside an unstable dimensional rift. They are. Okay. They are a bit melted. But I think I can work with this. You have 30 seconds before Kolth's charges detonate. Bush warned. Whatever you are going to do it fast. I watched Vera pull open a panel on the wall. Wires spilled out like intestines. She grabbed them with both hands and started connecting things seemingly at random. 20 seconds? Sparks flew from the panel. Something exploded in the background. Vera kept working. 10 seconds. Almost. Got it. 5, 4, 3. The rift collapsed. Just collapsed. Like someone had pulled a plug. The tier in reality sealed itself with a sound like the universe taking a deep breath, and suddenly space was normal again. No more creatures. No more impossible colors. Just the debris field and the Nightmare Division team floating in the void. Status report. Vash demanded. 6 is fine. Lost a few chunks but already regenerating. Mira here. Minimal damage. Kolth reporting. All charges detonated successfully. I am down to my last 3 grenades, which is tragic. Brain is stable. Had a minor panic attack, but I am better now. Silence. Holt, report. More silence. My heart sank. She had been inside the rift when it collapsed. There was no way she could have survived. Then, from somewhere in the debris field, I am here. Sorry, my contract damaged in the rift. That was really weird, by the way. Reality should not been like that. Pretty sure I saw some colors that do not actually exist. Are you injured? Vash asked. Define injured. I feel like I have been turned inside out and put back together wrong. But everything seems to be in the right place. Mostly. I sagged in my chair with relief so intense I thought I might pass out. All teams return to shuttle, Vash ordered. Mission complete. Rift sealed, threat eliminated. And somehow, miraculously, we did not lose anyone today. The shuttle docked back at Station 17 approximately 2 hours later. I was waiting in the deployment bay, along with half the station's personnel who had heard about the insane new human who had dived into a dimensional rift on her first day. Vera was the last one off the shuttle. Her armor was scorched and dented. Her helmet was cracked. She had a cut on her forehead that was bleeding sluggishly down her face. She looked absolutely exhausted. She also looked completely, utterly calm. Vash walked up to her, her massive frame towering over the small human. For a long moment they just stared at each other. Then Vash started laughing. Deep, booming laughter that echoed through the deployment bay. You absolute lunatic, she said, grinning with all her teeth. You jumped into a dimensional rift. You told me to. I did not actually think you would do it. Most beings have this thing called self-preservation. Vera shrugged. I figured you knew what you were doing. I died 4 times. I clearly do not know what I am doing. Vash clapped her on the shoulder hard enough to nearly knock Vera over. Welcome to Nightmare Division, Holt. You are officially the craziest human I have ever met. Is that a compliment? From me? Absolutely. I approached them cautiously. Miss Holt, are you actually okay? She looked at me with those flat, dark eyes and smiled slightly. I am fine. Honestly, it was kind of fun. Way better than filing expense reports. You consider jumping into a dimensional rift fun. Well, it was definitely more interesting. I stared at her. This tiny, unaugmented, untrained human who should have died a dozen times over and instead had somehow survived her first mission with Nightmare Division. Who had looked at a tier in reality and decided to jump into it because someone told her to. You are insane, I said. Probably. She agreed. But apparently that is a requirement for this job. She was not wrong. That was 3 months ago. Since then, Vera Holt has become something of a legend around Station 17. The human who survived her first day. The human who sealed a dimensional rift with nothing but melted controls and sheer stubbornness. The human who, against all logic and probability, kept not dying. She has been on 17 missions now. 17 missions into nightmares and hell dimensions and places where reality goes to die. She has fought creatures that do not have names. She has seen things that made trained soldiers retire on the spot, and she has survived every single one. Not just survived, thrived. Turns out Vera Holt has a very particular set of skills that make her perfect for Nightmare Division. She does not panic. She adapts quickly. She thinks on her feet. And most importantly, she has this absolutely insane tolerance for the weird and horrible. Last week she fought off a nightmare spawn by hitting it with a fire extinguisher because she ran out of ammo. The week before that, she convinced a reality-eating entity to go back through its rift by, and I am not making this up, being so annoying that it left voluntarily. Something about her asking it endless questions about its dimensional origin point and whether it had proper work authorization. Vash calls her the best recruit Nightmare Division has ever had. Kalf says she is proof that humans are universally unhinged. I think they are both right. I am sitting in my office right now, processing transfer requests. When my comm unit chirps, I answer it automatically. Krixor here. Krixor, this is Vash. We have a situation. Of course they do. Nightmare Division always has a situation. What kind of situation? The kind that involves a Class 5 horror manifestation in Sector 12 and a diplomatic incident because apparently it ate an ambassador. Which ambassador? Does it matter? Fair point. Do you need personnel support? Actually, I need you to approve another transfer. I go very still. Who? There is a Tellurian from engineering who wants to join Nightmare Division. Says he heard about Holt and figured if a human from administrative support can do it, he can too. I pull up the transfer request on my screen. The Tellurian's name is Brex. His qualifications include advanced engineering degrees, combat training, and cybernetic enhancements. He is actually qualified. Approved, I say immediately. Thanks. Oh, and Krixor? Yes, you were right. I should have died. We all should have died that first day with Holt, but somehow she pulled it off. So I just wanted to say thanks for not sending her back. I disconnect the comm and lean back in my chair thinking about the tiny human who changed everything. Central Command made a mistake when they assigned Vera Holt to Nightmare Division, but it turned out to be the best mistake they ever made. 6 months after Vera Holt joined Nightmare Division, I stopped keeping death notification paperwork ready for her. Not because I got lazy, understand, but because it started to feel like tempting fate. The universe has a sick sense of humor, and I figured if I prepared for her death she would probably outlive us all just to spite me. I was not entirely wrong about that. The incident that really cemented Vera's reputation happened on a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays are usually quiet, which should have been my first warning sign that something terrible was about to happen. I was in my office, drowning in requisition forms, because apparently Nightmare Division goes through ammunition like I go through antacid tablets, when my comm unit exploded with sound. Not figuratively. Literally exploded. Sparks flew everywhere. Smoke poured out of the vents, and the screen displayed nothing but static and what looked like screaming faces. I dove under my desk because I have excellent survival instincts. Thank you very much. The screaming stopped after about 15 seconds. I poked my head up cautiously and saw that every electronic device in my office was doing the same thing. Screens filled with static, speakers hissing. Even my coffee maker was making sounds that appliances should not make. Then, all at once, everything stopped. The devices went dark. Silence fell like a hammer. My door slammed open and Torvik oozed in so fast, he left a trail on the floor. Boss, we have a massive problem. I gathered that from my comm unit trying to murder me. What happened? Something breached containment in the lower levels. Vault 47. I felt every single one of my hearts stop simultaneously. Vault 47. The vault we do not talk about. The vault that has 16 different security protocols and requires authorization from 3 directors just to look at the door. That Vault 47, that is the one, boss. What was in Vault 47? We are not supposed to talk about it. Remember, Torvik, I swear by all 6 moons of my homeworld, if you do not tell me right now what was in that vault, I will reassign you to the waste disposal unit on Station 4 for the rest of your natural life. He gurgled nervously. It is called a Thought Eater. Class 7 nightmare entity. It consumes consciousness itself, feeds on minds, memories, identity. Once it starts feeding, it spreads like a virus through any networked system. That is why all our devices went crazy. It is in the network. I stood up so fast my chair fell over. Evacuate the station. Right now. Sound the alarm, get everyone to the escape pods, and pray we can seal the airlocks before that thing spreads to the rest of the fleet. Already tried, boss. The entity has control of the door systems. We are locked in. Of course we were. Because the universe hates me personally. I grabbed my emergency kit, which contains everything a sensible Velcrin needs to survive a catastrophic station failure, and headed for the door. Where is Nightmare Division? Vash took most of the team to respond to a situation in Sector 18. Some kind of temporal anomaly. They are not scheduled back for another 6 hours. Who is still on station? Just Holt and Breen. Everyone else deployed. Just Vera and the medic who had panic attacks on a regular basis. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I ran through the corridors toward Nightmare Division operations, dodging station personnel who were running in the opposite direction. The lights flickered overhead, cycling through colors that made my eyes hurt. The walls seemed to ripple and breathe. Reality was becoming flexible, which meant the Thought Eater was spreading fast. I reached operations and found it in controlled chaos. Breen was curled up in the corner, making a high-pitched keening sound. Vera sat at the main console, her fingers flying across the keyboard while she stared at multiple screens showing system diagnostics. She looked up when I burst through the door. "Oh good, you are here. I need your authorization code." "For what?" "To initiate a localized network purge in sectors 12 through 20. It is the only way to slow this thing down." I moved to the console and entered my code with 2 hands while my other 2 hands pulled up the vault security feeds. "How bad is it?" "Bad. The Thought Eater got into the main network about 8 minutes ago. It has already consumed the consciousness of 17 station personnel. They are still alive, technically, but everything that made them individuals is just gone. Empty shells walking around." She pulled up a security feed showing the lower levels. I watched in horror as station personnel wandered aimlessly through corridors, their faces completely blank. No expression. No recognition. Nothing. "It is spreading through the digital infrastructure," Vera continued, her voice calm despite the nightmare unfolding around us. "Every network device is a potential vector. Comms, door controls, life support. Everything. I have been manually isolating systems, but it is spreading faster than I can contain it." "Where is it now?" "Physically? Still in the lower levels near Vault 47. But digitally it is everywhere. It is like fighting smoke. You push it out of one system and it flows into 3 others. An alarm began blaring. Red lights strobed across the operations center. "That is the life support warning," I said, my voice remarkably steady considering I was about to die. "It got into environmental controls." "Yeah, I noticed." Vera pulled up another screen. "It is trying to vent atmosphere from the inhabited sections. Probably figures dead beings cannot fight back. Can you stop it? I can slow it down. Maybe buy us 20 minutes before the air runs out." She typed frantically, her small human fingers moving faster than I thought possible. "But we need to kill the source. The physical entity itself. Otherwise it will just keep spreading." "How do we kill something that exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously and feeds on consciousness itself?" "I have some ideas. They are terrible ideas, but they are ideas." I looked at her. Really looked at her. This human who had been filing expense reports 7 months ago, who had jumped into a dimensional rift on her first day, who had somehow become the most valuable asset Nightmare Division had. "What do you need?" I asked. "I need you to get Breen functional. Grab every cyanotic dampener we have in stock and meet me at Vault 47 in 10 minutes. Also, I am going to need the station's main reactor." "The reactor? What are you planning to do with a reactor?" She smiled, and there was absolutely nothing friendly about it. "Something spectacularly stupid that will either save everyone or kill us all. Possibly both?" "That is not reassuring. It is not supposed to be. Now go. Clock is ticking." I went. Getting Breen functional took approximately 4 minutes and required me to slap him across the face 3 times while shouting encouragement. The psionic dampeners were stored in the armory, which thankfully still had manual locks. I grabbed every single one we had, approximately 30 devices that looked like silver bracelets, and ran toward the lower levels. The station was dying around me. The walls pulsed with colors that should not exist. I could hear voices whispering from the ventilation shafts, speaking languages I did not recognize. Twice I passed station personnel with those horrible blank faces, and I had to resist the urge to scream. Breen followed me, clutching his medical kit like a security blanket, his fur standing on end with terror. We reached the lower levels and found Vera standing outside Vault 47 wearing full combat armor and holding what looked like a homemade bomb. "Please tell me that is not what I think it is," I said. "If you think it is a crude explosive device constructed from reactor coolant, industrial adhesive, and a timer I ripped out of the break room microwave, then yes, it is exactly what you think it is. That is insane." "I know, great, right?" She took the cyanotic dampeners from me and started distributing them. "Put these on, all of them. The Thought Eater feeds on consciousness, so we need to make ourselves as mentally invisible as possible." I strapped on 5 dampeners, which was probably excessive, but I was not taking chances. Breen put on 7. Vera put on the remaining 18 and looked like she was wearing bizarre alien jewelry. "Here is the plan," she said, checking the timer on her homemade bomb. "The Thought Eater is a non-corporeal entity that exists partially in our dimension and partially in several others. It anchors itself to reality through quantum probability matrices, which sounds complicated but basically means it attaches itself to places where multiple possibilities collapse into a single outcome." "How do you know that?" "I read the file while you were getting Breen." "Fascinating stuff." Apparently it was captured 73 years ago during an expedition to a dead reality. Killed an entire research team before they managed to trap it using a probability lock. "And you think you can kill it?" "Kill it? No. But I can definitely annoy it enough to make it leave." She hefted her bomb. "This device will create a localized cascade failure in the quantum probability field. Basically, it will turn this entire section of the station into a place where all possibilities exist simultaneously. The Thought Eater will not be able to anchor itself anymore. It will either flee back to wherever it came from or collapse into quantum foam. Or it will consume all of us and spread to the rest of the galaxy. That is also a possibility. Yes, but I am an optimist." The vault door stood open before us, a gaping mouth leading into darkness. I could feel something wrong about that darkness. It was too deep, too hungry. Looking at it made my thoughts slow and sluggish. "The psionic dampeners are working," Vera said quietly. "I can feel it trying to get into my head, but the dampeners are blocking it. We just need to get close enough to deploy the device." "How close?" "Inside the vault." "Of course. Why would we do anything safely?" She grinned at me, and I realized with sudden clarity that Vera Holt was absolutely, completely, categorically insane. And also possibly the bravest being I had ever met. We entered the vault. The darkness swallowed us immediately. My helmet lights barely penetrated a meter ahead. The air tasted wrong, like breathing in someone else's nightmares. I could hear my own thoughts echoing back at me, distorted and "Stay close," Vera whispered. "And whatever you do, do not take off the dampeners." We moved deeper into the vault. The floor beneath us seemed to shift and change with each step. Walls appeared where there should be empty space. Empty space appeared where there should be walls. Gravity became a suggestion rather than a rule. Then I saw it, the Thought Eater. Describing it is difficult because my brain kept refusing to properly process what I was seeing. It was shapes that folded in on themselves, colors that ate light, a presence that was both everywhere and nowhere. Looking at it made my thoughts scatter like frightened prey animals. It noticed us. I felt the pressure of its attention like a physical weight. It reached for my mind with tendrils of pure thought, probing for weaknesses, searching for a way in. The psionic dampeners flared hot against my skin, burning as they fought to keep the entity out. Beside me, Breen made a strangled sound and collapsed. His dampeners had failed. "Bryn," I grabbed him, but his eyes were already empty. Whatever made him an individual person was gone, consumed in seconds. "Keep moving," Vera shouted. She was running toward the center of the vault, toward the heart of the entity, her bomb clutched in both hands. The Thought Eater turned its full attention on her. I watched as it threw everything it had at this small human female. Reality bent and twisted around her. The air filled with screaming faces, all the victims it had consumed over decades. Probability itself shattered into infinite possibilities. Vera just kept running. She reached the center and slammed the bomb down onto what passed for solid ground in that impossible space. Her fingers flew over the timer. 5 minutes. 4. The entity realized what she was doing. It lashed out with pure mental force. I saw Vera stagger, saw her dampeners begin to fail one by one, each one burning out in a shower of sparks. She had seconds before it consumed her completely. "Vera, run!" I screamed. She looked back at me, and I will never forget the expression on her face. Calm, focused, absolutely certain. She reached down and twisted the timer. 30 seconds. "What are you doing?" Giving us a chance to get clear. "Now move." We ran. The vault had become a nightmare maze of shifting corridors and impossible angles, but Vera navigated it like she had a map. She grabbed my arm and pulled me through passages that had not existed seconds before, dodging around walls that appeared from nothing. We burst through the vault door with approximately 5 seconds to spare. "Seal it!" Vera yelled. I slammed my hand on the manual override. The vault door began to close with agonizing slowness. Through the narrowing gap I could see the entity reaching for us, its form expanding to fill the entire vault. The door sealed shut. 3 seconds later the entire station shook like a giant had kicked it. Alarms blared, lights flickered and died, then slowly began to come back online. I pulled up a diagnostic panel on the wall. Life support was stabilizing. Door controls were responding. The network was purging corrupted sections and rebooting clean. "Did it work?" I asked. Vera leaned against the wall, breathing hard. All of her dampeners had burned out, leaving scorch marks on her skin. "Check the vault containment status." I pulled up the vault diagnostics. Vault 47 was showing sealed and stable. The probability lock was holding, and the Thought Eater's quantum signature was gone. "It is gone," I said slowly. "You did it. You actually did it." "We did it," she corrected. "I would have died in there if you had not been watching my back. You would have died if your insane bomb had not worked." "True. But it did work. So technically I am a genius." I started laughing. I could not help it. The sheer absurdity of the situation, of this tiny human saving an entire station with a bomb made from reactor coolant and a microwave timer, was too much. Vera joined me, and we stood there laughing like lunatics while the station slowly recovered around us. The laughter died when I remembered Breen. "He did not make it," I said quietly. Vera's expression went flat. "I know. His dampeners failed. The entity got into his mind too fast. It is not your fault." "I know that too does not make it easier." We stood in silence for a moment, honoring the small furry medic who had died trying to save his station. Then my communist chirped. A real chirp this time, not nightmare static. I answered it. "Krixor here. This is Vash. We just got the emergency alert from the station." "What the hell happened?" "Vault 47 had a containment breach. Thought Eater got loose." Silence on the other end. Then, "Tell me you are joking." "I wish I was." "How many casualties?" I checked the station-wide status report. 18 personnel consumed. 1 fatality during containment. Brain did not make it. More silence. When Vash spoke again, her voice was rough. "How did you stop it?" "I did not. Holt did." "Of course she did." "How?" "She built a bomb out of reactor coolant and used it to collapse the probability field anchoring the entity to our reality." "She what?" "I am just telling you what happened. You can ask her yourself when you get back. We are already en route, ETA 30 minutes. Do not let Holt go anywhere. I want a full debrief." The comm disconnected. Vera looked at me. Am I in trouble? Probably. You did destroy part of the station's reactor. In my defense, it was for a good cause. Saving everyone from having their consciousness consumed is generally considered a good cause. Yes, we walked back to operations in silence. The station was slowly returning to normal. Personnel were emerging from shelter points, looking confused and frightened but alive. Engineering teams were already working on repairs. Medical was dealing with the consumed personnel, though there was not much they could do for beings who had lost everything that made them individuals. I helped Vera file the incident report, which was possibly the strangest document I had ever written. Subject secured containment breach through application of improvised quantum disruption device is not a phrase I ever expected to type. Vash arrived 37 minutes later with the rest of Nightmare Division in tow. She took one look at Vera, sitting calmly at the operations console with burn marks on her arms and exhaustion written across her face, and shook her head. "Holt, You are either the luckiest being alive or the universe has a very specific plan for you. Can it be both? It better be, because you just saved approximately 3,000 lives using what amounts to a bomb made from trash. That takes either incredible skill or incredible stupidity. Again, can it be both? Vash laughed and pulled Vera into a hug that probably cracked a few ribs. You did good, kid. Breen would be proud. The funeral for Breen was held the next day. The entire station attended. Vera stood at the front and spoke about his bravery, his kindness, his tendency to panic at inappropriate moments. It was a good service. He deserved it. After the funeral, I found Vera standing alone in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. You okay? I asked. Not really, but I will be. It never gets easier. Losing people. I know. She was quiet for a moment. Can I ask you something? Of course. Why do you think they transferred me here? Really? I had been wondering when she would ask that question. What do you mean? I have been thinking about it. I had no qualifications, no training, no reason to be assigned to Nightmare Division, but Director Vexil personally signed my transfer orders. That does not happen by accident. She was right. It did not. I might have an answer for you, I said slowly. But you are not going to like it. Try me. I pulled up a file on my datapad, a file I had been looking at for weeks now, trying to decide if I should show it to her. This is your psychological profile from your employment screening when you joined the Galactic Security Bureau. She took the datapad and read. I watched her expression shift from confusion to understanding to something that might have been anger. They knew, she said quietly. They knew. The psychological profile was very clear. Vera Holt scored in the 99th percentile for stress tolerance, adaptive thinking, and emotional regulation. She had virtually no fear response to novel stimuli. She processed traumatic information without experiencing normal psychological damage. She was, according to the psychologist who evaluated her, quote, functionally immune to the existential horror that breaks most sentient beings. In other words, she was born to hunt nightmares. Vessel has been watching you for years, I said, waiting for an opportunity to move you into Nightmare Division. When a position opened up, he took it. The administrative support job was just to get you into the organization, so I was always meant to be here. Looks like it. She handed me back the datapad. I am not sure how I feel about that. How do you feel about the job itself? She thought about it. I like it. It is terrifying and horrible, and people die, and sometimes reality itself tries to eat you. But I like it. I feel like I am doing something that matters. You are. You have saved more lives in 7 months than most operatives save in entire careers. Then I guess Vexel made the right call. She smiled slightly. Even if his methods were questionable, we stood there watching the stars for a while longer. Then Vera straightened up. I should get back to operations. Vasha wants me to help train the new recruits. New recruits? Yeah. Apparently, after word got out about a human from administrative support surviving in Nightmare Division, applications have increased by 300%. Everyone wants to prove they can do it too. I groaned. Great. Just what I need. More insane beings volunteering to fight nightmares. Look on the bright side. At least you will not have to keep death notification paperwork ready for all of us. I am definitely keeping it ready. You people are going to give me a heart attack. All 6 of them. She laughed and headed for the door. Then she paused. Krixor, thanks for showing me the file, and for not sending me away that first day. You are welcome. Try not to die. No promises. She left, and I stood alone in the observation deck, thinking about the strange human who had changed everything. That was 8 months ago. Today, I am sitting in my office processing the latest batch of transfer requests to Nightmare Division. There are 47 applications, 47 beings who want to hunt nightmares and fight horrors and risk their sanity on a daily basis. All because one small human showed them it could be done. Vera Holt is out on a mission right now. Something about a ghost ship in Sector 20 and reports of temporal distortions. Routine stuff by Nightmare Division standards. She will probably come back covered in strange slime and with a story that will give me nightmares for weeks. But she will come back. She always does. My comm unit chirps. I answer it automatically. Krixor here. This is Vash. Mission successful. Ghost ship secured. Turns out it was not ghosts at all. Just a temporal echo from a parallel universe where things went very badly. Holt convinced it to go back through the rift by explaining our reality's tax code in excruciating detail until it decided anywhere else was better than here. I start laughing because of course she did. Of course Vera Holt defeated a temporal anomaly by boring it to death with tax code. Casualties? I ask. 0. Well, Kolth lost another arm, but he will regenerate it. He is weirdly excited about it. Good. When are you back? 20 minutes. And Krixor. We are bringing something back. Something we found on the ghost ship. It is… well, you should probably see it yourself. The comm disconnects. 23 minutes later. I am standing in the deployment bay watching Nightmare Division unload their gear. And there in the middle of the bay, contained in a portable stasis field, is something that makes my blood run cold. It is an egg. A massive egg, approximately 2 meters tall, covered in symbols that hurt to look at. It pulses with a light that exists in colors I cannot name, and I can feel something inside it. Something aware. Something hungry. What is that? I ask, though I am not sure I want to know. Vera walks up beside me, still in her armor, looking exhausted but satisfied. We are not entirely sure. The ghost ship was apparently some kind of transport vessel from a reality that collapsed 6,000 years ago. This was in the cargo hold. And you brought it here? We could not leave it there. The temporal rift was unstable. Another few hours and it would have collapsed completely, destroying the ship and everything on it. So you brought an unknown entity of possibly apocalyptic power to our station instead. When you say it like that, it sounds bad. It is bad. Relax. It is in stasis. Completely secure. We just need to study it, figure out what it is, and then decide what to do with it. I look at the egg, at the symbols, at the hungry presence. I can feel even through the stasis field. This is going to end badly, I say. Probably, Vera agrees cheerfully. But that is a problem for tomorrow. Today we saved a ship, secured an anomaly, and nobody died. I call that a win. She is right. By Nightmare Division standards, it is a win. I watch as they wheel the egg away to the secure research lab, and I try not to think about all the ways this could go catastrophically wrong. But you know what? I have been working with Nightmare Division for over a year now. I have seen them fight horrors and seal rifts, and survive things that should have killed them. I have watched Vera Holt go from administrative support to the best nightmare hunter in the entire Galactic Security Bureau. If anyone can handle whatever comes out of that egg, it is them. And if they cannot, well, at least it will be interesting. I go back to my office and pull out the death notification paperwork, just in case. But I am betting I will not need it. After all, they have Vera Holt, and Vera Holt does not quit. She just builds a bomb out of whatever is handy and solves the problem in the most insane way possible. That is what humans do. That is what makes them terrifying. And that is exactly why Nightmare Division needed one.